Hey, what do you think of them? He asked when he had done. The savage shook his head. Listen to this, was his answer, and unlocking the drawer in which he kept his mouse-eaten book, he opened and read. Let the bird of loudest lay on the sole Arabian tree, herald said, and trumpet be. Helmholtz listened with a growing excitement. At sole Arabian tree, he started, at thou shrieking harbinger. He smiled with sudden pleasure at every fowl of triumph wing. The blood rushed up into his cheeks, but at defunctive music he turned pale and trembled with an unprecedented emotion. The savage read on. Property was thus appalled that the self was not the same. Single nature's double name, neither two nor one was called. Reason in itself, confounded, saw division grow together. Orgy porgy, said Bernard, interrupting the reading with a loud, unpleasant laugh. It's just a solidarity service hymn. He was revenging himself on his two friends for liking one another more than they liked him. In the course of their next 2 or 3 meetings, he frequently repeated this little act of vengeance. It was simple, and since both Helmholtz and the savage were dreadfully pained by the shattering and defilement of a favorite poetic crystal, extremely effective. In the end, Helmholtz threatened to kick him out of the room if he dared to interrupt again. And yet, strangely enough, the next interruption, the most disgraceful of all, came from Helmholtz himself. The savage was reading Romeo and Juliet aloud, reading, for all the time he was seeing himself as Romeo and Lenina as Juliet, with an intense and quivering passion. Helmholtz had listened to the scene of the lovers' first meeting with a puzzled interest. The scene in the orchard had delighted him with its poetry, but the sentiments expressed had made him smile. Getting into such a state about having a girl it seemed rather ridiculous, but taken detail by verbal detail was a superb piece of emotional engineering. That old fellow, he said, he asked our propaganda technicians, look absolutely silly. The savage smiled triumphantly and resumed his reading. All went tolerably well until, in the last scene of the third act, Capulet and Lady Capulet began to bully Juliet. The English word pear is probably from common West Germanic para, probably a loan word of vulgar Latin, Pira, the plural of pirum, akin to Greek apios, which is of Semitic origin. The place name Perry can indicate the historical presence of pear trees. The term piriform is sometimes used to describe something which is pear-shaped. The leaves are alternately arranged, simple, 2 to 12 centimeters long, glossy green on some species, densely silvery hair in some others. Leaf shape varies from broad oval to narrow lanceolate. Most pears are deciduous, but 1 or 2 species in Southeast Asia are evergreen. Most are cold, hardy, withstanding temperatures between negative 25 degrees Celsius and negative 40 degrees Celsius in winter, except for the evergreen species, which only tolerate temperatures down to about negative 15 degrees Celsius. The flowers are white, rarely tinted yellow or pink, 2 to 4 centimeters diameter, and have 5 petals. Like that of the related apple, the pear fruit is a palm, in most wild species 1 to 4 centimeters diameter, but in some cultivated forms up to 18 centimeters long and 8 centimeters broad. The shape varies in most species from oblate or globous to the classic piriform pear shape of the European pear, with an elongated basal portion and a bulbous end.